Yeah, we're going to agenda. You could should be based on the meeting, to post the agenda, so we're going to talk with them, but we want to make sure that we swap it out. So maybe that's what member of the public is interested in our exchange. Yeah. We mentioned discussing the kind of CRM systems and see which spaces are popular.
Hey, Jeff, when Bobby Barnes always talks about his raise on the Massachusetts retirement, he talks about, is it the first 14,000 or first 16,000? I wasn't. I figured you'd remember.
He always says 16,000, but it's the same thing for 7 years since I've been working. He always brings that up, but he never shows exactly what he means. I have no concept of what he's talking about.
I asked Donald Herbert, and he said the same thing, that his pay, when he gets a raise on the retirement, that it's only on the first, I thought he said 14, but it could be 16,000, and it's that percentage on that. It's not the entire retirement. So I was really surprised at that. Because it seemed far-fetched to me.
This year he's on the warpath because somehow his Medicare insurance went up
as much as
whatever
went up as much as his.
rather than above.
Yeah.
And so
You're all set, Brett?
but he's a valuable member. It's tough to communicate with him because he isn't here too long. So when he gets agitated, it's like, all right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Karen,
short.
Karen talked about, I was going to read this one about Donald's mom in
Yeah.
green,
Yep.
and then you do the other.
Yep.
Okay.
Peanut butter toast.
The
dinner. The dinner of ex-champions. I didn't even graduate to jelly, just the peanut butter.
You're already sweet enough.
Oh, and I left my freaking reading glasses. I know.
We ready? You ready?
Yeah, it's ready. I'm gonna
Ready?
be.
I am.
All right. Welcome everyone to the Town of Brookfield Select Board meeting Thursday, February 20th. Please stand and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so this meeting is being recorded and live streamed. Reminder, a winter parking ban is in effect through April 1st. There shall be no parking on any streets between the hours of 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Vehicles in violation will be ticketed and towed at owner's expense. Also, snow or ice removed from driveways, sidewalks, or private property shall not be plowed, shoveled, or blown across any public way, street, or roadway.
I want to give a big congratulations to Pauline Herbert, who celebrated her 100th birthday on February 7th. Pauline is a lifelong resident of Brookfield, and she is the current recipient of the Brookfield Gold Cane, which celebrates Brookfield's oldest resident. And I was at her party. She is sharp as a tack.
And on another note, I just, unfortunate to come off of that, but I just want to take a moment of silence for Art J. Art was a very long-time Brookfield resident of the Brookfields, West Brookfield, I believe Warren. Served on the Cemetery Commission here in Brookfield for many years. And himself and his wife Elizabeth have done a lot in the way of donations, including the 4 Welcome to Brookfield signs. Those were donated to the town on their behalf. So I just want to take a moment of silence to recognize him. All right, thank you. And signed warrants, Ron?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We have 2 fiscal year 25-17 accounts payable in the amount of $171,155.33, and fiscal year 2025-17 payroll in the amount of $211,588.33.
All right, thank you. And first on the agenda, Communications Committee.
May we come up?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
All right, well, the Communications Committee has spent the past several months preparing a website recommendations report, and we sent that to the Select Board 2 weeks ago. And just to kind of fill in the public, the town website is currently provided by Civic Plus, and as of last month, it is no longer being maintained or supported because the technology that it's built upon is no longer receiving security updates. So one of our goals as the Communications Committee was to research the municipal website vendor space and to provide recommendations for the next website, and that's the purpose of this report. Has your board had a chance to review the report?
Yes, I went through it.
I did.
Okay. And so it's kind of broken down into the plan that we established over the past several months, starting with the website specifications and features, then assessing the website platforms and vendors that are used by other municipalities within the state of Massachusetts. So there's information about, for the 352 municipalities, which vendor and platform, which platforms are used. And then it goes into our 3 vendors which we reached out to and assessed their offerings. And then we closed with our recommendations. And we left you with a fork in the road. We came up with 2 recommendations amongst our committee. We met with this to kind of finalize this report, and we were kind of considering both Proud City, which is it's a smaller vendor. They built their platform on top of WordPress. They publish their pricing, which is an anomaly for most of these municipalities. It's typically like a mystery box, and they'll do some assessment based on municipality size. But met with their CTO. They were very upfront. They gave us a demo of their project, and it seems like a great platform. And our second recommendation is Enevry, and Enevry provided 2 options for the town. One is a managed solution where they would maintain the content and build a custom platform for this. The other one was a WordPress managed platform, and WordPress is a common content management system. We recommend the content management system option, 1 for price, and 2 would allow members of our community and our committee to contribute content to the website as well.
Can you also contribute content on Proud City? Like, do we have any handicaps there?
No handicaps whatsoever. For Proud City, the expectation is that we would contribute all of the content.
Yeah.
So part of the pricing for Proud City is an onboarding, and that's a 12-week program where you meet with them twice a week for 45-minute sessions, and they will teach you how to use their platform, and you'll build out and migrate the content throughout that process. But the expectation is that the town themselves will create all the content on the site by the end of it. But they do have a 12-week program where they teach you, and you can, I think they recommend for our municipality size up to 3 members attend that onboarding. So if there are any people here who would like to contribute to the website content, like a member of our committee, Karen, perhaps. I'm going to suggest that Karen gets involved in this too, as you currently are on our current
You gonna
website.
do all the programming?
We haven't talked about this in advance, I'm putting you on the spot, but up to 3 members for onboarding. But there is no limit to how many members can contribute to it. But I did reach out to other municipalities that are using Proud City. The one that I came across is Wendell, Massachusetts, which is a small town northwest Quabog, Quabbin Reservoir area. Their website, I think, is very well done, very organized and informational. I reached out to their website committee, and they said that for them, they recommend only having maybe like 5 or so members access the site at once for content contributions to kind of, so you don't have too many chefs in the kitchen, in a sense. But there is no limit as far as how many contributors there could be from a technical point of view.
Can we ask a question before?
Yeah, let us go through it for a little bit here, see if there's anything.
Yeah, and so the only risk really with it is the fact that they don't have real user roles on there.
Yeah.
So you can't really segregate the content, but as long as everybody behaves appropriately in the sandbox, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's best to not have too many contributors, because it really is an open system for anybody to get in there. But I would imagine that some of the contributors might just get in there to post calendar events or news articles, a pretty minor thing, and so long as they know to simply do that, I don't think there'd be too much of a concern with giving them the keys to the entire website.
Yeah,
We would just have to trust.
right.
So another thing, with what we choose, how are we for budget?
The 2, the Proud City as well as the Every, are both the lower cost options.
Yeah,
As we indicated, in both cases, there are a one-time upfront fees for conversion and transition. And then for the ongoing operational expenses, Proud City is actually a little less than an Every. They're relatively close, but Proud City was only $1,800 and change.
It's $1,800 annual fee and a $4,000 one-time onboarding fee.
So that's certainly palatable from a budgetary cuts. And I don't like microphone.
Yeah, and to compare that with an Every, they have a similar pricing structure where there's a one-time setup fee and then an annual fee past that. And for an Every, I have it in the report too. It's
Yeah.
About 35.
I think it's $5,000 for onboarding and then $3,500 annually. So
Right, and actually it's funny because the biggest difference between the 2 options is the same. The strength of one is the weakness of the other fundamentally. So they're both WordPress based, which is a societal good because the likelihood of WordPress going away is low in the near term. I mean, no platform would probably, people said that about MySpace when it came out, but we all know what happened to that. With one would be customized and we'd be building it from the ground up, but it is ultimately customizable, and the other one is very, already exists, so there would be no need for customization, but there's also no option for customization,
That's true,
fundamentally, if
yep.
I'm understanding it correctly.
Yep.
Except that if you're in WordPress and you need an add-on and you write it somewhere else, you can just link it, fundamentally. It's a little hinky, but certainly not undoable.
yeah, there would be other ways to integrate external content onto the website regardless of the platform. And that's one thing that we noted about this is that some of the vendors do offer add-ons like request for quote or online permitting, things of
Yeah.
that nature. I don't think that there's necessarily a reason at this time, as noted in this report, to buy such add-ons. Because we can purchase those from other vendors.
Right, and then
standalone.
just outlink it, and it's not an issue, right?
Yeah,
So
so
we
I
can,
would say for now, like, the purpose of this recommendation is just the website, because that's what's crucial here.
yeah, makes sense.
And did you guys have, I don't remember offhand, because it's been a week since I looked at it. Was there a specific recommendation?
They gave us two. They basically
Right.
said,
Pick one.
they said pick one. The less expensive one is Proud City, which, you know, it's a decent fit, right? The security's minimal is the only problem with it, but so long as we trust the folks that we give the keys to the kingdom to,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Now, where there's slight differences, and when we get to like the procurement side of this, because I remember Lori mentioning they have to go with the lowest bid. What happens in a situation like this where they're not identical services?
Well, because since for these options, they're below the $10,000
Oh,
threshold. So all we have
so
to
then
use is
you're good.
best business
Best-
practice.
okay.
Best business practice, yeah. So I mean, we have some flexibility that way fundamentally. And I think isn't there also an exception for certain types of technology?
Yeah,
stuff?
there's some exceptions for that.
Yeah,
But yeah, we're certainly within Chapter 30B rules and regs.
yeah. So we could select either one based on, either we could say, hey, our relationship with Energy and our experience there has been positive enough that we'd prefer to go that direction, especially where it would be fundamentally custom built for us, right? So it's like the difference between buying a little
Yep.
bit, difference between buying a stock Mustang and something that's a little decked out. So,
Do you guys have a recommendation to which one you want to make a motion?
I'm not gonna weigh in too heavy on this, because I'm totally out of my expertise, so I'm gonna defer to you guys, and I'm probably just gonna agree with you. So you guys have at it, and you get my support.
And if you would like us to do more vetting of these two vendor options to put less pressure on you, we can as well. Just saying. We did provide you a fork in the road, and whether that was a welcome thing or not, it's a situation that we have right now.
So-
But among our committee, we did have we had a favorable outlook on both of these options.
Yeah.
So we wanted
I
to
don't think
recommend them
either
both.
is the wrong choice.
yeah, I mean, I hate to put it this way, it's like you could pretty much throw, with no disrespect, you could probably put them in a hat and be successful either. Either option can make us successful fundamentally. So it depends on, I think if we didn't have the communication committee, I would be more set on going with a Nervy
Yeah.
by virtue of the fact that if we needed the support for the
Right.
content pickup, then we could. But if the communications committee is willing to sign up for helping with that replatforming, and if Karen's not going to run screaming off retiring because we tell her that that's part of her duties, then
I told her we wouldn't accept her retirement.
Well, I mean,
or
one of the
resignation.
concerns I have is, I mean, I appreciate you guys as volunteers. What you've done here is completely excellent.
But in the future, if
But
we
in the
don't have
future,
it.
you might not be here. So that's a concern.
right, and that is something to consider, right?
Right.
Is that having, having somebody that's professional with a fundamentally a business relationship with the town.
Yeah.
Right? It lends itself to potentially a little bit more stability long-term. So it really is a less expensive near-term. We have the volunteer resources, but if for some reason the volunteer resources disappeared,
Then that's not good.
Then that's
Because I
not
think
good.
that's the position this town was in at one point when we were
couple
doing it.
different
Yeah.
times. we've been through this cycle at least 2 or 3 times that I've
Right.
been associated with
Yeah.
the town government, frankly. So, I mean,
Okay.
I would be inclined, and, I was really about ready to make a motion for the Proud City, but I think I'm gonna, in light of that conversation, I may actually make the motion the opposite direction.
Did you have something, Jeff?
Mine was this technical. I wanted to thank, we had our talk with the, came and talked to us at the advisory committee and let us know everything. And we're still working on getting that PowerPoint budget thing, but we're going to be the experiment once this thing gets up to put last year's budget presentation up on the website so that everyone can sort of see, hopefully, and prepare themselves for this year's stuff. But the second thing was, is there a specific line item, or we're just gonna put it in technology budget? Is that what you're gonna do, or?
Yeah, my personal preference, and I certainly defer to the town accountant, but I'd like to see it standalone as its own versus kind of bundling it, for lack of a better term, into the IT budget. Personal preference. I don't see where it wouldn't be agreeable with GAAP, but as I said, I'll defer to Lori.
Okay, and that's coming under the selectmen whole purview there?
Yeah, that would probably make sense, depending where she wants to put it in the chart of accounts.
Okay. Thank you.
So the one question I have, how long is this website good for on what we're agreeing to this evening? Is it,
I mean,
is
as
this
long as it
an
continues
annual?
to be updated, and
So
then,
are we looking at annually doing this cost, or 3 to 5 years? How long are we?
oh, this will be in perpetuity. And it'll probably only go up, I'm assuming it's never gonna go down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 3,500. Like if we were to go with, the, say, the WordPress option, like somewhat self-serve, but supported by,
But the website would be a contract for a certain period of time, correct?
Correct, yeah, we'd
Yeah.
probably enter some.
Probably do
flexibility.
3 to 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
do a standard LTA.
Yeah.
Yep.
So over that span, the higher bid, the amount diminishes pretty quickly over a long period, right?
Mhm.
So if we only have to pay that fee every 3 to 5 years, right?
Well, we won't have to pay the initial fee. That'll drop off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the slight difference from one to the other, the higher one, is pretty insignificant, and the amount of time that he's put in on other projects, I'm pretty comfortable with that part, but
Okay, so you're thinking the fully customized website so that,
with Jacob's company.
yeah.
And I thought that's what you were alluding to, but I could be
Well,
wrong.
there's two levels. What I was actually going to recommend, and see if it's an option, okay, would be to do the LTA where we initially go with the WordPress site with Enervi, but have an option that if in a future year we need more complete administration, that we could have, in like government contracting, we refer to it as like option clauses. So basically go with the lower level one with Enervi, and then, but have the option in the contract that in the event we didn't have the internal support for supporting content, that in any given year, we could, say, 30, 60, 90-day notice, ask for that higher level of support. I don't know if that might be an option. So,
Certainly part of the negotiations for a contract. that
Right.
You could add that in there.
yeah, so,
And I did speak with Jacob. He did say that, I asked him if, so I'm a WordPress developer among other platforms
Things.
for my daytime job,
yeah,
but I would not want to get my hands on this directly. I want to let him run it, certainly, and his company manage it.
Right.
But if there are any type of recommendations that we might have or collaboration efforts that would go above and beyond the customizations that are offered in Every's 3,500 annually, I think we could stick with WordPress, and that would be ideal.
yeah.
But customize it possibly more so than what's in the scope of this agreement.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So, but that's why I was thinking the lower level contract with him, but to have the option that in the event we don't have a WordPress whiz on staff, so to speak, that then we have the option to lever up. So, so I would make, let me just see how you all presented it. And that is the, in every access controlled WordPress front end
Correct.
recommendation, correct? So I'd make a motion that we select the Anivri access controlled WordPress front end, but to negotiate an option clause in the event that we need the higher level support in the future.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, for the other things here, are we, making decisions on these today, like the roadway maintenance and the permit management?
No.
That was just as part of the process.
Yeah, in the recommendation section, where does it start? I think it's page
I think it's,
10.
yep,
Focus on the website.
yeah.
That section right
Get
there.
the website up.
Yeah, so I certainly want, and the communications committee is happy to contribute to those topics. But as far as selections go for road maintenance,
Yeah.
online permitting, we can handle those independently
Okay.
of this. And even though Inevry is one of the vendors that does provide solutions for those things, I think we can entertain those as product offerings in the future and see what other options we have as a separate project.
Okay.
I had a boss I didn't particularly care for, but everyone I've ever worked with, I've picked up one piece of wisdom from, and his phrase was, "Let's go slow to go fast." So get the website in place, then look at what some of the services are that we want to offer. I do know that, and it's really funny because the building inspector used to be really opposed to online permitting, and now he's interested in online permitting. So I think it is something we probably do want to take a look at some point in the not too distant future, but let's get replatformed first.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you.
Next time, come with one recommendation. No.
No.
I want to
like
give you,
choice.
yes, you're the executive arm, but I want to give you agency on top of that.
Thank you.
Just give you one.
I'll make
But
a
if you bring
motion.
us three, we might
Make
get
a motion, we
grumpy.
take the dog officer.
Oh, is that what
Yeah.
this, okay,
Why
yeah.
don't we do that?
Yep.
Yeah, you see that?
So Deborah Young and Alexandra Smitchinsky. Do you want to just make an appointment?
I'll make-
or is there-
Well, seeing how the ACO and the assistant are both here, I'll make a motion to appoint Deborah Young as Brookfield's ACO.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
And
Aye.
aye. And I'll,
Thank you.
Beth, you want to make the motion for the assistant?
Sure, I'll make the motion.
You can butcher her name.
It's my turn, right? Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to appoint as our Assistant Animal Control Officer, Alexandra Spinchinsky. Awesome.
Perfect. I'll second that.
Any discussion? All
No.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So I do have one bit of discussion regarding it. Something was said about a vehicle at one point. We have a town vehicle that was, I think was given to us some time ago by the town of Belchertown. It's not a real, it's kind of a loud, older diesel pickup, but I think that would be appropriate if you needed a truck to.
We already talked about it, yeah.
Oh, you-
What
Well,
vehicle is
Peter's
this?
using it now, so he said she can't use it now until, in the future, he needs to get another vehicle. He's using it for the emergency ice rescues.
What is the vehicle?
It was a shared vehicle. It was kind of a pickup truck. It was an old pickup truck
Yeah,
from the
that's
town
it.
of Belchertown,
That's
a
it.
fire
The
vehicle.
red?
Yeah, the red
Oh, okay,
Belgian,
okay.
yeah.
So if you don't mind, I'll speak to Peter and see if there's any way we could shake it loose, or if he definitely needs it. I don't know how he's equipped it. I didn't realize it was equipped with any ice apparatus, but if that's not an option right now, it's not. But I wouldn't mind speaking to him to see if we could do something until we could come up with a, Ron expressed some concern about a vehicle going forward. So to me, that's our cheapest option right now.
I also did mention an idea to you. Do you want me to mention it, or?
Go ahead.
So,
Do you mind
Do you want to
coming
come
up?
up?
Oh,
No, she doesn't want to.
Yeah.
no, I've been in animal rescue for about 30 years, and I've done different charities and different things like that. A lot of dealerships, if you approach them, might actually donate. What was the wording that I said?
Like an old cruiser or
Trade-in.
No,
something?
no.
Trade-in.
What was the word?
Like a trade-in?
Trade-in, that was it. You know, and it doesn't
They usually
have-
send them to auction and they're,
Well, right, but sometimes, you know, dealerships, especially Subaru, you know, because they support, you know, the love a pet and stuff like that. And even Lamro Ford, since they're in the town.
So why don't you solicit them and see if you can get us a free vehicle?
Okay, I didn't know if that was my position or if that was someone else's
Well,
position to,
I mean, if
like,
if you
walk
want
in.
Ron to help,
I could work with Deb and we could
Yeah.
see if we can't twist an arm or two.
sure.
Yeah, because it wouldn't have to be, something, you're not going to walk away with a 2025, but,
Right,
if they
right.
had some kind of SUV that was a trade-in that still ran, because they do have different kinds of, I worked at Standard Auto Parts for many years. We did, people would trade in a vehicle and then they would donate it to whoever
Sure.
needed it, different things that needed it. So there are programs like that with local junkyards and things, so there might actually be another option.
Yeah, the other option we would have is I have a personal account on Municipid, so I could lurk on Municipid and see, a lot of times like minivans and SUVs show up, old police vehicles that are Ford Explorer, that type. And, yeah.
Okay.
So, and a lot of times you can go probably anywhere between 1,000 or 2,000 for some of those.
It's in our budget.
But yeah, we actually do still have a little bit of money in the equipment. There's like an equipment account that the select board has purview over in
Okay.
between meetings. And
Sure.
so long as we kept it under, I think probably like $2,000, we'd
Yeah.
have plenty of room.
Well, I think between Deb and Ron and yourself looking at municipal, we might come up with something.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And I'll speak to Peter as well, so.
Yeah, I've seen that truck go out and get used fairly recently, so.
Okay. Yeah.
So I understand why he's a little bit loath to give it up. I mean, you could
Yeah.
ask him, but he's gonna.
I know he
probably
was
say-
sharing it with the assessor for a while, so perhaps something has changed where he's now not. So
I think
let me
it's-
just speak to him and then I'll report back to.
Yeah, fair,
Yeah, because at the moment, we'll both be using our own vehicles,
yeah,
Okay,
so
yeah.
we'll try to get you something.
I can donate a couple Vericannels if you need them.
I would like that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, actually, so do you want me to just leave them at the town hall?
Perfect.
Okay,
All right.
yeah.
Well, thank you.
No problem.
Thank both of you.
And actually, since Deb is here, I just want to give her credit for when she was assistant animal control officer. Deb had some connections in Sturbridge and solved a very significant issue that was plaguing animal control in Brookfield, and that was the use of shelter. We did not really have a place to shelter when we lost our former animal control officer. And Deb, for her own initiative, working with the folks in Sturbridge, and we were able to really get a free usage of the kennels in Sturbridge. And there is absolutely no strings attached, no money. All we have to do is just give them a call and let them know that we're coming. And obviously, we have to care for the animals, but that was Deb's idea, and she followed through, and
Appreciate
it
it.
really worked great.
Yeah, it's huge. Thank you again.
Excellent.
All right.
You're all set? You can stay if you want.
Thanks, it's up to y'all. You're welcome to stay, but feel free to. It's not that much fun.
Highway operator, is there anything else we wanted to go back to the?
You know, I think there's several things that Kyle might be involved with, like number 2, number 3, number 4, so maybe.
Why don't we appoint them first and then cover them?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
All right, I'll make a motion to appoint Kyle Rakowski as our highway superintendent.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Highway operator wage rate discussion. Do we want to have Kyle up for this? Does he have any?
We may, if he has
Okay,
something to add.
okay.
Yeah. So the one thing that the highway committee has been talking about was more than just a laborer, machine operator, and a truck driver, but was the possibility of a mechanic/welder, kind of like what we had with our previous employee that retired. So that was one of the needs of the highway committee that they pointed out. So I just wanted to bring that up as we look through these.
Okay, so one of the things we have to be cautious about, so there's an areas where we have a lot of leeway, and then there's areas where we don't. So you could hire a highway operator one who happens to have mechanical skills and set their wage rate based on experience and skill set, and have them be on a totally different pay scale than a operator one that comes in with just the operator licensing. Okay. However, that mechanic, because we have as minimum requirements, the CDLB, the hoisting license, the mechanic would also have to be fully qualified as that operator one to do that. Okay. If we want to change the construct of the highway department, what we would need to do is rewrite a portion of our personnel bylaw, get that position in the personnel bylaw, establish a grade for it, and eventually write a job description. So the job description can happen after that, and technically we can hire, so long as it's in the bylaw, there's no requirement that we have a job description, right?
What you're saying, this would need to go to the annual town meeting
Yeah.
then, essentially.
Yeah, it has to go to annual town meeting. If that's, and you know what, it makes perfect sense, right? Doing
It does.
in-house maintenance,
Right.
I got no heartburn with, but to do it, now you could hire someone seasonally to any job description. The flexible part, which I didn't get to yet, was we could hire somebody seasonally, so we could have them for upwards of 900 hours before it becomes a problem, right? To do mechanicking work and hire them as a seasonal mechanic, and maybe some weeks they had a bunch of work, and maybe some weeks we don't see them. But we couldn't establish it as a permanent position until we get to town meeting.
Right.
So those are our options.
In fact, because of that, I kind of see two ways we can attack this. With the seasonal, if you kind of do the math, we could sneak them in. as a
We
seasonal.
could just about sneak somebody in. It could also just start by posting a per diem mechanic position or on availability, depending on how you look at it.
Would we need to do just limit as a mechanic, or could we just do, Ron, what you're saying essentially from now to the annual town meeting, they would not exceed the 900 hours? Is that
Correct.
what you, and so specified mechanic
Our highway budget is incredibly healthy,
Okay.
painfully healthy. That's why we have all the backlog of work that we do. I mean, so long as, and I think we can get pretty good alignment. Like town meeting kind of gets silly stupid on the pennies, right? Like, let's just be honest. I mean, we've had some fights over $20 of raise on the assistant animal control officer in the past, right?
or a
Okay.
$200 software package or
Right.
something, right? So I
Right,
agree.
okay.
But I think something like this is-
But this, something like this, if you and I can sort of agree on it, I think we can probably get it.
we'll
to
get it through the town meeting.
Right, so if we can find the right person, the risk is low, but that person needs to be willing to take the risk of town meeting.
That's correct.
Right, so,
And that is the
And not
part
every
that could
person-
hamper us, is as Kyle is going through the hiring process, there has to be a certain amount of trust that new
Right.
person is going to put into the town, that everything will be, resolved and put in proper place
Yeah.
on come July 1st.
yeah.
So,
And I think you could post it with seasonal, up to 40 hours weekly, and see if the right candidate comes out, but you can also be picky about the right candidate, right? So you don't have the resource now, right? As painful as it's gonna be some days, right? But it's almost like when you're looking for a job and you have a job, it's like you're looking for somebody, but we currently have people that can help support you in the interim, right? Same concept,
Well,
right?
and I believe, and I had talked to him briefly, and forgive me because I already forgot the answer, but North Brookfield and East Brookfield have mechanics.
North Brookfield's about to lose theirs, but East Brookfield does have a mechanic
So, I
that
mean, if
works
we
on the
had-
trucks versus the town vehicles, all police cruisers,
Yeah.
so it's a good step.
So we have some assistance in the meantime if needed.
Well, Mike Duval has been doing a
Yeah.
lot of it. Herb Chafee has stepped up, and
Yeah.
Bruce Clark has also said if in a pinch, he would step in. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
They
think
just
it's...
don't want it to
it's
be a
not critical.
permanent, they just don't
Exactly.
want it to be a permanent
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah.
so.
But Kyle got into a situation on his first or second day where the trucks needed the clutches adjusted, and I was able to call Mark Sagendorf at Hilltop Repair, and he came in for an hour on a Sunday or Saturday with Herb Chafee and adjusted the clutches. So we have some ability to get through if we had to till the annual town
That's
meeting.
probably the only job down there I could have helped you with.
Well, come on down, Belle.
I've done enough clutch packs in my life that it's probably not that much different on one of those.
So I guess I'm really wondering about, are we really doing the right thing with this wage authorization that we're doing right now without, because we're not basing this on, the highway committee suggested 3 people, an operator, a foreman, which we have, and a superintendent. So, but in that third operator that we're looking for, that's the one we're looking for, a mechanic / welder fabricator. And what this wage authorization that we're doing right now doesn't necessarily cover that. So how do you propose?
Well, so here's the thing. It depends,
Okay?
right? So is the wage authorization that we're talking about, okay, so we're talking about a structure of a single operator 1,
Mhm.
correct? A mechanic, a foreman, and the super,
No.
right? Is that
No.
the structure we're
No.
talking about?
No,
No.
it's only 3 full-time employees, the
Superintendent.
superintendent, the foreman, and the operator, but
Slash
that is
mechanic.
multi-versatile, having all of those abilities. So we felt, or the highway committee felt with Kyle right now, he is the operator, but it was highly stressed to have the mechanic / welder be the next hire.
So, do people forget that we actually give people vacation in this town?
Well,
I mean,
we
from like a
do.
staffing schedule perspective,
But-
from a scope of work perspective.
Well, let me just say this, then, because Mike Duval, though he does many tasks, he's been able to do all the mechanical work for the most part for the last, since Noel Herbert retired. He's done the bulk of it. He's been digging the graves, so he's been running the equipment as well. So technically, he is an operator. He's licensed to operate, and he's a truck driver, and he's a foreman. So, so we are, if Kyle went on vacation, we are still covered. Kyle, do you mind if I ask you, did Mike Duval do the grave on Tuesday?
It got postponed.
It got postponed, okay, but he was scheduled to,
That's correct.
and he has been doing them?
That's correct.
Okay. So I mean, so as far as the bare minimum operator, we do have that.
I gotta be straight with you. I think, I mean, your other option is to post for 2 seasonal, up to 40 hours, right? Allows you to bring in somebody to do operator work as well as mechanic operator work. Put preferred qualifications inclusive of the mechanic and fabrication stuff. It gives you the option to hire somebody to help you get through the rest of the season, right? Letting them know that it could be up to 40 hours as long as they've got the CDLB and the hoisting. But because we're hiring as seasonal, we're not really committing to them for the summer season. but it allows us to take a real look at what the project plan is and what work we want to get done come May, June. And we may make the decision it does make more sense to have both an operator, one, and a mechanic, plus the foreman. Or not, right? Because town meeting authorized us to have a 4-person crew, and I think fundamentally we should attempt to carry that until June.
The problem with that is we would then be going against what the highway committee's recommendation is, and we task them with the needs of the highway department. And now, I don't feel good about going against what they submitted.
Right, but we're talking about the same folks that told us we need to bring Herb on part-time to get caught up in the highway department. So I'm just saying that we need another seasonal. Right?
I don't have a problem with having a seasonal at all, but I thought you just said to bring 4 full-time, bring the staff back up to 4 full-time.
Well, what I said was to hire 2 seasonals, or have 2 seasonal postings. One is just a pure operator. If that's what we find, that's what we find to carry us through the rest of the season. If we find posted as 2 seasonal positions, have preferred qualifications be the mechanic skills, okay? And you could bring them in as seasonal, up to 40 hours each, right? Fundamentally, it becomes a try before you buy, okay? And it helps us get caught up on what our backlog is, and then not make a commitment to hire until we get to town meeting and we can transition that operator role into a mechanic, right? And then maybe that other seasonal person gets to stay on as seasonal but can only get so many hours, right? To me, that's the safer put, right?
Yeah, because I think it's going to be dangerous to try to lure someone in and say, come work for Brookfield, and we promise at town meeting, we're going to make you a full-time benefited person, right?
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know many people want to take that risk.
Right.
So,
So they might or they might not.
right.
But let's post 2 positions, so we find that unicorn of somebody who's willing to bet on town meeting.
Okay.
That's a mechanic, we can.
Okay.
But that we can also get an operator in to finish up the damn season. So, and we'll go from there. That would be my
Do you have
recommendation.
any input with what's being said?
Yeah, because I'd like to hear what Kyle has to say, what he thinks his needs will be going forward, and he's only 2 weeks in, but I
Right.
would.
Well,
like to-
he knows a little something about something though, or else he wouldn't
Exactly.
have-
Do you want to come up and join us?
So right now I have 3 seasonal workers there, or temporary part-time workers, so to say. And
Right.
it is,
Hard to manage.
in my opinion, a scheduling nightmare, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And if we added 2 more of those, although, I mean, if that's the way we want to run this department until July 1, I will figure it out from a scheduling standpoint. But it's day-to-day balancing of budgeting, hours worked, thresholds of overtime, separating budgets between seasonal work, daily routine maintenance, snow and ice budgets, and the unknowingness of the 3 gentlemen as to whether
Who's showing up when?
they are to report to duty the following day at 7 a.m. or not. If we add 2 more seasonal workers to that, I can only imagine that problem's gonna,
Be worse.
yes.
Okay.
So we have 2 full-time vacancies right now, which has been suggested to drop down to 1. Ultimately, with this conversation, I was just hoping that you guys could provide a range if we found the right applicant who possesses all the skills, all the licenses, all the certifications, and the experience that we were looking for, just so I can start networking and potentially looking for a candidate to build a team. Because my goal is a team-based atmosphere, and my ultimate goal is employee retention. So I was just hoping that you guys could provide a range for me, just so I have that in the back of my mind.
So why don't, so that makes sense to me, right? So it'd be 1 full-time posting. What's the cap if the person is only an operator, and what's the cap if the person has mechanic skills?
So right now, Kyle interviewed, how many did you interview roughly?
2 out of 14.
2 out of 14.
That's correct.
And do you have any more that you're going to interview?
3 that I'm going to touch base with and try and schedule initial meet and greets, and those were all suggestions from the Highway Advisory Committee.
But that doesn't necessarily, not one of them necessarily meets the needs what you've identified. for
That's
the
correct.
highway department. Is that-
That's correct. With the conclusion of this, I would just love to know if there was somebody who met all the needs, all the requirements,
What's the max you could go?
and had an impressive resume to go with it.
I was going to say, if I could suggest, in just, looking at the survey we did, with the 10 or 12 towns, one of the things that I was going to throw out there for food for thought is if we had a wide range. If we have a wide range, Kyle can't find the unicorn that checks all the boxes, well, they're on the lower end of that range. If we do find that unicorn by having the wide range, we sneak them in up towards the top.
Yeah, so I mean, what do we think would be the bottom number that you can find somebody with
Well,
the
my
driver's?
bottom is my high is $12 an hour. So,
Well, I was
no,
gonna say-
that's what we need to shake out.
Yeah, but,
No, we need to shake that up.
Do you hang out in that place in Sturbridge across from CVS?
So,
Anyway,
I was going to say, in looking at the numbers that we got for that kind of operator mechanic, like tossing out the highest one, tossing out the lowest one, I got a range, low part of the range at $25.62. High point of the range would be $37.30. So that wide range we're talking about. And then if Kyle does find that unicorn, I think he has the ability to entice them to come on board with a higher wage. But if we can't find them, once again.
because I was going to throw out 25 to 35, right?
Okay.
That, like what you'd put in the posting is 25 to 35 an hour, depending on experience and skills, right? And the 25 to 30 range is CDLB and their hoisting requirements, and the mechanicing or fabricating would get them up above 30?
Correct.
so Ron, I see the 37, but that says superintendent. Do you have another one?
No, it's operator mechanic under Charlton,
Yep.
3730. And I don't even have my reading glasses.
Well, I
Rich. You
don't
gotta get a
have,
pair.
oh, I do see it, yeah.
But
But my arms are still.
I mean, this is pretty small.
Well, what's
Beth,
with
you
the
gotta
I've got my
admit.
cheaters here if you want.
So that's just a mechanic, that's 38, 32?
Operator mechanic.
Operator
Operator
mechanic,
mechanic.
which is kind of that unicorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
But in a much bigger community,
No, but what
too,
you're
yeah.
saying is this person in Barry is only a mechanic at 38, 32, not an operator mechanic. It's the one in the fine print.
So is that a motion, Beth?
that was a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, for discussion. I mean, does that work?
Are we going with Beth's motion of
Yeah.
25 to 35?
Is that a work?
Is that enough?
Is that gonna get you?
Is that gonna
so-
get you there?
So I know it might get you an employee. Do you think it's gonna get you the right employee?
I can work with that.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
And I mean, if you find someone and it's not, I
You
would
could always
come
come
back
back to us.
to the board.
Thank you.
So call for a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Was there something else that we wanted him up here for? Or?
I think that's it for this portion.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Discussion regarding employees having multiple jobs and responsibilities priorities.
So I asked to bring this up because currently Kyle needs some guidance at the highway department regarding our past interim highway superintendent. So when she had started, she started as a secretary, and then I believe her role changed under the interim of Gary Kelleher, the superintendent. I believe she was out doing plowing, but I checked with Karen, and she said that she had never been put on as a highway part-time operator or plow operator. You would know better, Beth. You were here. I was not a selectman at that
So-
time. Do you know?
so-
Her title as the
So,
interim.
so let's actually go into the rollback machine now, okay? that highway secretary, as long as Cindy Thompson was there, and I don't think.
This
it had-
isn't going in a bad direction, so I want you to know that.
No,
Yes,
oh,
okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we understand something.
Yeah.
We have never told the highway superintendent what they can or can't have the secretary do if the individual was willing to take on the role. Okay? And I'd say that functionally, we have treated the highway secretary as highway staff. We've left it up to the superintendent what duties they perform and when they perform those duties. And
'cause
we
for
haven't,
instance-
and the select board has never engaged itself in the delineation of what particular tasks individuals do within the department, okay? Similarly, back when like Bruce Clark was the water guy, frequently there was a lot of exchange of labor between him and the highway department. He used to be, when he was running the sidewalk machine, I didn't have to go fix the divots in my yard, and I didn't have to take phone calls from everybody else in the village about the fact that they were, tearing up the lawn with the sidewalk machine, right? Bruce managed to keep the damn thing on a straight line on most days. So, I think I know Kyle is new. I think that he can assign duties, and I will tell you, like I said, I mean, Cindy ran one of those 1-tons for years, and she was never technically on the list of emergency operators, okay? So that's what's been usual and customary. If we want to set a policy that in order to be snowplow operating, they need to be put on the emergency operator list, that's fine. But I think that, that's really Kyle's call, and I think we need to get out of this trap.
I barely got a sentence out before you started getting defensive, that I'm not, this is not to pick on anyone or do anything. Kyle asked for clarity, so I put it on the agenda. So
Okay.
he needs clarity, right? So, and I kind of want to get into from where it started to where it is presently. And this is not to pick on anyone for anything. So just so you know that. So hopefully you're not so defensive. But anyway, so I had Karen check to see if she was a part-time plow operator, and she has not been. And that's not a problem. I don't have an issue with it. But then she became a part-time plow operator to then continuing to do the secretarial work at the highway department. But then she was also tasked with last July, August, with 20 hours a week as a grant writer. So now the job kind of now secretary grant writer. So today Kyle started, I met with Lindsay and Kyle, and we went over some of how things were going to transpire from her position to Kyle's. And I asked Lindsay what her expectation was going forward. So Lindsay said, well, I fully intend to do the secretarial, I fully intend to do the grant writing, and then I would still like to do plowing when necessary. And I said, okay, I don't have a problem with that. I said, but what you will have to do is be mindful of how you handle those things. So are you going to be a plow operator during the day? Oh, no, she said, I'm only going to plow after the 7 to 3 hours. And I said, okay, great. I said, but then you'll definitely need to be mindful of the overtime, because once you get over 40 hours, then Kyle will have to be aware that you'll be paid overtime. And Lindsay's thought was absolutely not, no overtime, because I'm now a part-time plow operator and I'm wearing that hat. I checked with, I told Lindsay I disagreed. I thought that she would, and under the Mass Labor laws, that she would be entitled to overtime. So I checked with our accountant, then I checked with Ron, and they both agreed with me. So they notified, I don't know if Lindsay was notified at that point, so, but I did notify Kyle on that Thursday, the 6th. Well, Lindsay disputed that, and she called Ron and went over what her attorney thought, and then Ron got actual clarification from town council and sent it to Kyle on Friday morning. Kyle asked Lindsay to go home at 3 o'clock on Thursday, and because he wasn't sure of the situation. I never once asked for Lindsay to go home, but I did tell Kyle to be mindful of the overtime, because at her overtime rate, we could almost hire 2 Class D operators, not just her, right? And if she wants to plow, go for it. But Kyle says, look, I need some clarification on who I'm going to hire, when they come in, and how they go about it. He also called in, inadvertently, he called in Damien, the newest part-time hire, and offended one of the other part-time hires that had, for lack of a better word, seniority over him. So Kyle got that squared away. So Kyle took that position basically just thrown out there and without much guidance. I tried to give him as much guidance as I could without telling him how to do anything. So I thought, what a perfect way to figure out how that transpires. And in the meantime, I also asked Ron to come up with a job description for Lindsay, because I don't even think we have technically a job description for her. And I just thought that was a good way to move. What's that?
There is a job description.
For that hybrid position?
Not for the hybrid, it's strictly, I mean, literally called Highway Department Administrative Assistant, and then the other one is
the grant
referred to
writing.
grant writer.
Okay.
Right,
So
and it's not technically a hybrid position, similar to Polly, right?
Yeah, Polly.
She functionally, discreetly holds 2 positions within the town.
Yeah, so I don't have an issue with any of the 3, but Kyle's asking for clarification, and I'd like to give it to him. So, and again, I do not have a problem with Lindsay plowing. So, let me go on to say that when Lindsay assured me that she would be the administrative assistant, or do the administrative work for the highway and then do the grant writing, it wasn't 20 minutes later, she got up and went out plowing, and it was roughly 11 o'clock in the morning. So Kyle and I looked at one another like, what happened? But, so he's looking for guidance for that, and I think, you know, he's come to me for other things as well, and I just try to point him in the right direction. So it doesn't make sense for us to pay Lindsay overtime with a Class D license unless he has no other choice. And I said, you got to run this department, so you do what you have to do. But he, as a Class D operator, that's the most of the help that he has down there for fluctuation. So if she were Class B, she would be high on the priority list. So how do you want to proceed with that?
I think I already said. I already stated my position. Rich,
Which part?
That fundamentally it's up to Kyle. He knows what his budget is.
Okay.
He knows what he needs to get done. He can assign whoever he wants, wherever and whenever he wants, right?
Okay.
You
Well,
know,
I think we have
I concur that he's going to have to manage his overtime budget, but again, he's got plenty of budget. He can make whatever decisions he needs to make right now to get the work done. If he's got other people he wants to and can call in and chooses to do so, that's fine. But he should be doing it at the time that's most advantageous. If somebody's like mid-route, maybe you wait the half hour or 45 minutes to complete what's going on and then do the swap out of operators, whatever it is that makes sense, right? And I know that it's early on and you're still figuring those things out, right? But at the same time, some things are intuitively obvious to the casual observer, so just try to make good decisions. And they're your decisions to make as the highway superintendent. That's my stance on it, right? So, you know, clearly we need to manage the hours, right? You're correct. There are labor laws about paying after 40 hours, right? Because this is not a protected position. Unlike the only people that we wouldn't have to pay after 40 hours overtime if we didn't have to do it contractually is the police and fire, right? Because under the, whatever the FPLA, whatever, XYZ, MOUSC, right, there's not a requirement to pay until, I think it was what, after 48 or 50 hours or something like
80
that.
hours or something.
No, it was,
I'm thinking about what the police.
I think it was like 45 or 48
Oh.
or 50 something is what the
Right.
Federal Labor
Yeah.
Standards Act requires
Yeah.
for emergency
Yeah.
personnel, right? And that's where it might get tricky, actually, and honestly, KP might even be wrong, because I don't know if the highway operators under snow conditions actually count as emergency operators. If they are truly emergency operators, Lindsay may be right, that she could take straight time, she could work
Yeah,
for the
because we
town
went
at
through
straight
this with
time.
the police union contract into the
So
emergency.
the question would be is how is it,
that
because
differ?
it's termed as an
Right.
emergency operator, does that actually change the obligation of when overtime has to be paid? So-
But does it have to be declared an
I don't know. So that's where
Right.
it probably gets fuzzy, and that's how people could come up with different answers on that.
Right.
Is because when you start to get into that Fair Labor Standards Act versus Massachusetts general law, it could be that federal law says one thing, state law says another, right?
Yeah.
So I can see that being really fuzzy, but at the end of the day, your budget, do what makes sense, just be aware of 4 hours, right? So, and I would say it's probably his call to have whoever, wherever. And now,
But I would
unfortunately,
check-
you know, whatever politics.
but
It
if-
sounds like you know the politics now of the seniority list on the emergency operator roster, right? So,
But yeah, I think we should look into that anyways with the emergency, because if we have a weather event where it is a snow emergency declared,
right.
does that change anything? And I only want to know that because if we do call her in because we need her, we want to figure out if we're paying her overtime or not.
Yeah.
Because I think he has the authority, even if it's not a snow emergency, but he's short because people are sick, he could call Lindsay in.
Right, exactly, or let her stay
Yeah.
after hours in order to get started until someone else can get in, because
Right.
there may be some people that
Right.
have a day job that doesn't end until 5
Yeah.
o'clock that are emergency operators, and she could stay 3 to 6 so that there's good overlap and we
Right.
get the coverage we need, so. I know that just complicated things, but is that clear as mud? All right,
So, just so I'm clear, if Lindsay's plowed longer than Damien, Lindsay, and it's a daytime snowstorm, does Lindsay remove herself from highway secretary / grant writer to be the first one called in ahead of Damien to put that stuff to the side to go do snowplow?
so I would say that depends on what her current workload is, and hopefully we're employing the right people and she's making a good decision. Because grant writing is very cyclic, right? Sometimes you're buried in it, sometimes you're not buried in it. She's been the highway secretary long enough, she knows what's critical and what's less critical. What can wait until Tuesday to get done, what has to
Right.
get
If
done
it's
by the end of the
payroll
week.
day, she
If it's
knows.
a payroll
So-
day, she's probably not gonna go anywhere, you know?
Right. So then, when she leaves that post, she's paid at a lower rate of $25 an hour than 29, is that?
Correct. I believe so.
Yeah, yeah, when it's charged to emergency operator, yeah, it would be
Okay.
emergency operator rate.
So you almost have a security guard in there.
Yeah, I mean, as long as.
She's not gonna wanna go
It's almost crazy
pull
for her
herself
to go,
out.
but if that's what she wants to do and Kyle needs her, I'm
Right.
totally good with that.
Yeah.
I just want to get this all out in the open.
Yeah.
That's my only.
Yep, and so that would be the one thing, is that right, is that probably if we're, typically when people hold multiple positions now, at one point we harmonized our grant writer and administrative assistant pay, strictly for the sake of, it can turn into an accounting nightmare, right? But I think emergency operator is a little easier to segregate the work of, like, you know, you're not gonna be as likely to transition, like while you're sitting at your computer, you're gonna transitioning from grant writer to administrative assistant. That's just so hard to track as a human being. But you know the difference between being in the office and being in a truck. So,
Did you have
That
something?
was my basic question, because we did spend a significant amount of time in the last budget cycle with this whole situation about its different positions on the pay rate and everything else.
Do you wanna
Priorities.
come up so we can-
So, bringing back bad memories.
I know.
I'm glad that you guys are
passionate.
talking about it. I still don't quite get how it all works, but I'm just trusting all of you to work it out. Because this, just from a personal standpoint, you know, I like linking up with it all, or whatever.
Jeff, do you want to come up at all, or? Do you want to come up at all?
So they can hear you?
He has audio issues. Are you good? Okay.
Because you guys here, you've been through the experience, so we were very concerned about this last year because we couldn't figure out how it was going to be tracked. But if you're saying that now it's one rate, it's this and that, the other one is, so it's very clear, and I don't think we as an advisory committee would have that difficult. Again, it's Kyle's to run.
Yep.
But it's a tricky, very tricky situation. It was, the grant writing, everyone else is up here, and the highway department's down there, and how do you,
Yep.
a lot of trust involved. So.
I'm good.
We good?
Yep, we're good.
Actually, one thing, and I'll just throw this out here, I don't want to muddy the water anymore. Seeing as Lindsay was not appointed as a seasonal worker,
Put
in
it on
essence,
the
to
next
perform.
agenda.
Okay, I was going to say.
We can't
could
do it now,
Yeah,
it's
we
not
can't
on
do
the
it, we can't
agenda.
do it now, but can we put it on for the next, just so it's clean and clear?
Sure.
So long as the chair doesn't object, because it's his agenda,
No.
despite how we've treated it.
Select board liaisonships. I think we kind of just went through a little bit of that in this.
Well, I think Rich got defensive and alluded to the fact that I did ask to get this put on the agenda because I think we need to make a clear delineation and publicly agree that there's a big difference between being the select board liaison and giving direction without clearing that direction via the vote of this board.
Well, seeing how I'm the only liaison pretty much for any departments, and I know that you talked to Brad, and Brad asked Karen to put it on, I pretty well knew it had to do with me, Beth. So I don't think that was defensive in any way that you asked Brad to have it put on the agenda. So I would ask Kyle, do you feel like I am a liaison, or am I telling you what to do with your day-to-day operations?
Well, that puts an employee in an interesting
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Let's get it right out there. You wanted it out in the open, Beth, let's put it out there.
I've had an overwhelming amount of support from multiple different people across the community in all different facets of the community. As of right now, it's been a lot to take on with the weather conditions, with the time of year, and with the amount of information I had to upload here. So I'm thankful for all the support I've received so far.
Fair enough. But I also want to say, Beth, in my liaison position, just this year alone, I've been down with Dunkin' Donuts, coffee and donuts. I've asked Kyle if he's needed anything. I've been in another night with a bag of cheeseburgers and French fries for all the employees down there. I've been to Big Y for treats for them. I've done multiple things. I've told Kyle about a place that he can buy sand at half the price of where we've bought it in the past, but I did not tell him to go there to buy it, but it's the same distance, it's in a different direction. On multiple occasions, I've asked him if he needs anything, i.e. he needed clutches adjusted on a Saturday, and I got someone in there on a Saturday to adjust the clutches, and I think we talked about it on a Friday. So I think I have done an exceptional job as a liaison down there. So just want you to know that.
Okay.
I'm missing some backstory here or whatever, but just for my very technical whatever, you know, when I joined the advisory committee 7, 8 years ago, whenever it was.
Do you want to come up?
Right now I will, because again, I'm sometimes I get a little bit, I'm not getting the backstory here. But I thought this was about, you know, who the liaison is. For example, 2 years ago, I think there was probably a vote on the select board, and Brad said he volunteered, and everyone agreed to be the liaison for the school committee situation. So goes and talks to the school committee. It was, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago when Beth was assigned as the liaison for the select board to the advisory committee. So that's how it is. I mean, come and go, or I call you if we need you, or whatever. No big deal. So I'm not sure what all this other stuff is going on, but that's what, to me, a liaison is that, you know, if you want to get involved, fine. If not, then no. So, again, I'm just looking at it from a, you know, you come to the advisory committee, you give your input, you listen, whatever. But I think still, you know, at that point, you're there as a...
But I'm not telling you what to do while I'm there, right?
But you're not there as a select person, you're just there as an individual, like Mr. Holcroft comes, you know, sometimes too, so. That's what my understanding of it is, so I don't know what's going on here, but I just feel uncomfortable, I'm sorry, but I mean, I've been talking to everyone long enough, I've been in town long enough, but you know, I don't think there's any need for it to go in this direction, you know, that we're just...
I agree.
Sorry, I don't know if I made my point, but I mean, there is an official, like, you know. And then there's
Yep.
We good?
We're
Yep.
good.
Authorize town administrator to discuss Brookfield Elementary School roof.
And just a little background on that, we did receive the report and the estimate from the vendor. The good news is the moisture penetration for the elementary school roof has been negligible, really. So right now, there's two estimates before the town. One is to do basically kind of a renovation or a refurbishment of the majority of the roof. There is a ballast roof, which they refer to as roof A, which is kind of a rectangular portion of the school. That probably would have to be replaced. But the replacement for there is really one of the worst parts about it is the ballast part where they have to get all the stone out of there and rip off the membrane, so on and so forth. But bottom line is we now have an estimate that we can kind of hang our hat on. We have to look for grants, obviously, to see if that's a possibility. It's the type of thing that we may end up needing to do borrowing, but bottom line is there's a lot of variables, there's a lot of discussion has to occur, and I just wanted to make sure that the select board was comfortable with me having those discussions with school committee and school personnel.
So I had one question, Ron. I understood, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but I thought the portion of the roof that needed to be replaced was on the existing, not the addition, but it sounds like it's the addition that needs the roof?
Yeah.
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Because the other roof, honestly, is in really, really good shape.
Okay.
The survey they had done back in 2018, 2019 timeframe had noticed a little bit of moisture penetration. The fear was, well, what's happened over the several years since then? And we found literally minimal, less than 1% penetration into the insulation. Okay. So the feeling there is we're going to be able to reutilize the insulation in the structure itself, which is obviously a huge cost savings. Now, for the renovative part, we're probably looking between $800,000 and $900,000. For the part that has to be completely replaced, we're probably looking more in the neighborhood of about $400,000. So it's still very significant. Currently, right now, we have a little over $600,000 in our stabilization fund, thanks to the generous donation by the town with free cash last fall. We have had discussions with the school superintendent, Ms. Boyd, and she had indicated that no, they had never promised to do half, but they can make a significant contribution as well towards that. So with all these variables, as I said, it's time, I think, now to start pulling things together, coming up with a game plan to see if it makes sense, because obviously this is the type of thing we would probably have to put on the annual town meeting.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to, I'm sorry, are you done?
Yep, I'm fine.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to appoint Ron to oversee the finances of the roof as our representative.
I'll second, but I'd like a little bit of discussion.
Sure, for discussion.
Yeah. One, I do support Ron just having these conversations. The one piece of messaging or inquiry I would like to make sure you bring in the conversations, and this is one of those as much as I loathe using the term, sometimes based on my experience, okay, because I grew up in a roofing family and spent an awful lot of time up in the air in situations like this. My biggest concern is that there needs to be a lot of attention during the RFQ process, not just to the replacement area definition in the contract of join, especially if they're going to leave an and material, because I've seen more than one project go really south where they have basically eaten alive the portion that they were going to leave in place because they didn't know what they were doing in terms of making that transition from old to new. Okay, so it's just something to be aware of, that whatever metric they use for evaluating the criteria on that project, it needs to incorporate a real risk mitigation plan on whatever the boundary zone is going to be between old and new roof, if they're going to do a partial.
The good news there, especially when we start to get technical and into the engineering minutia, is the engineering firm that performed the study has also said they are more than willing to help us.
And they had nothing to do with that addition engineering, because clearly somebody effed it up.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, let's just make sure that they're not the same guys that designed the addition, okay? Please.
I will double check that with the schools.
Thank you.
All right,
But yeah, I'm done, thank you.
it's all in favor? Yeah.
I don't know if you wanted to comment, Brad, but the meeting we had with Deb Boyd was very positive. And she had the two other technical people that had worked to get that report together, brought it right out to us, and then she volunteered the information. I mean, she immediately corrected what the previous administrator had said about their behalf, but she gave what Ron indicated as far as we're willing to go ahead and fund a portion of it. And she was very supportive and said that she would talk to the school committee members and get their support also. So I think it was a very good, I think we all agree, positive meeting, which again, a big number like that is very important.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So as long as we take care of the roof people, then
Yeah.
we'll be all right.
I've just seen so many instances of that going south.
No, I think we all came out of the meeting very, very happy. Not so much as far as what the total budget for the regional and the elementary school was, but then this other situation with the roof, which we've been worrying about for a year and a half or so, had some resolution at least.
Yeah.
About half full.
Yeah, and I think we've been smart, right? We've squirreled away as much money as we could, as often as we could, so,
Yeah, that was-
that way we can make a sound decision about the right financials, especially where interest rates still stink. So we don't want to borrow if we don't have to right now. So,
All right. Did we call for a vote on that?
no, I don't.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fiscal year 2026 employee cost of living adjustment discussion.
So I can kind of give a little background on the COLA discussion. If you recall, a few meetings ago, we had some initial discussion about the COLA. We do, and I'll just to refresh everyone's memory, I did reach out to the town accountant, and had her indicate what the impact would be for a 2.5%, 3%, and a 3.5% COLA. For the 2.5% COLA, it was a little over $46,000. 3% COLA was $55,500, and 3.5 was $64,000, actually just short of $65,000. Subsequent to that, I did meet with the advisory committee. The advisory committee had quite a bit of discussion and deliberation. I believe in the packet you can see that the advisory committee voted to recommend a cost of living adjustment of 2.0, and just to, keep the ultimate figures in line. A 2% COLA would have a bottom line impact of $37,000, a little over $37,000. And as you can see, as you go each 0.5%, it's a little over $9,000 is the increase to the bottom line. So that's where we stand. The advisory committee has forwarded their recommendation, and a lot of that, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of that had to do with the situation we find ourselves in, which at a very high level, we have approximately $290,000 of what I'll refer to as additional revenue for fiscal year 26 versus fiscal year 25. I've got some bad news from the town treasurer that our retirement assessment is going up in the neighborhood of $100,000, if not more.
Yeah, 120 range.
And the school, that at least that Superintendent Boyd had presented to us, she actually was able to reduce that, and she thinks that's going to probably be somewhere in the $160,000 increase year over year, fiscal year 26 versus 25. So if you look at the 100, which could be as high as 120,000 plus 160,000 for the schools, that pretty much takes up all of our additional revenue.
So was it a 3.4 increase over last year? I thought 3.4
That
was
was
what was.
the original number she had mentioned. She had for lack of a better term, a couple tricks up her sleeve where she might be able to utilize some other funds and other pockets of money to fund things. Her confidence level, I think, has grown even since when Jeff and Brad and I, that it now, she can utilize those additional funds. So I think it's more in the neighborhood of 2.7, 2.8% year over year increase. So as you can see, we're kind of strapped.
So I had a little discussion with Ron about it, and I thought that we're so early on in the budget to even come up with this. I thought that I was going to make a motion to go 2%, but not stay firm on that, but to see how it shakes out after the budget season and then revisit it.
Yeah, I'd like to revisit this till after the budget season.
In all fairness to the employees, if we can do more than the 2%, but I also want to, the advisory board talked about the same thing, to see what happens after going forward, where the budgets shake out and where all the insurance money, the addition in insurance, addition in retirement benefits, to see where it shakes out, and if we can go higher, that we would make every effort to do that. But I also want to say that I think it's really important that, from my perspective, that we stay lockstep with the advisory committee based on the amount of work they do and the effort they put into it. That's my personal opinion. So my motion is to go 2%. So I don't know if we get a second.
So, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, just if you want to open it for discussion, I just want to give a little bit more context. So how we came to that decision, okay? So, when I originally came before the select board, whenever it was, 3 weeks ago, a month or so ago, we said, all right, we're looking at COLA, and that was a spirited discussion internally with our advisory committee the day before the select board meeting. And then the select board meeting, which Ron attended, and I think you did also, was right after we met with the school superintendent, and she revealed the information she did, and we got some information from the treasurer. So at that point, I believe prior we had been a very split vote, close vote on the COLA, and then when this other information came in, and I agree totally with it, this is a starting point, but that we felt that based on the additional information we had at that point, that we were going to start low and then go high, as we sometimes do. But we wanted, this year at least, to get some clarity early on. I think last year we waited for the select board to make a decision, and we almost didn't make a decision until like the end, and it was very not transparent. So this year, I think we start where we are, and we're transparent, we have a slightly different process. As we go along, hopefully we can increase it, because again, you know, this is sort of a worst-case situation, and there's some things that the school budget can, you know, reduce. That's great, that's more money that we can put in, but that's more or less the context. So and again, we could probably take another vote next week and have a different outcome. So it's going to fluctuate, I think. This is what you gentlemen have said, or not gentlemen, but select board have said.
So I'll second for discussion. All right.
So, actually, my question to Jeff is, you made this 2% thing, but you're not finished with the budget meetings, correct?
Correct. This was
Just started.
Right, so I think, so my personal opinion is we're too early for any of this.
I'm sorry?
So we're too early for this, in my opinion.
It could be, but again, my feeling is on the advisory committee is that we've always wanted to be as transparent as possible, but now we have, I think, more information earlier, so we decided to put this out. And if it's too early, it's too early. It's what our preliminary recommendation is. Once everything goes through the cycle, then we'll have possibly another recommendation. So, again, that's just the decision we make. You know, you can say yes, you know, fine, that's a preliminary recommendation, and vote or not vote. I mean, that's just too early. Whatever you want to do.
So,
but again, that's what we thought last week. Everyone just sort of looked at the numbers and said, you know, so that's where we are.
what I was going to say is my recommendation, especially since it aligns with Social Security, would be to start at 2.5%. And if we can't fit the budget in under the cap at that, then we make the decision to go down. But I think it's more, if we want to avoid some of the absolute insanity that we've wound up with on the town meeting floor, I think indexing ourselves to the Social Security COLA tends to take some of the noise out of it. So I hear what you're saying about we've got a lot of uncertainty. I hear what you're saying about the school budget. School budget's always a little bit more than 2.5%, right? And it's very painful, right? It's very painful at this end of Center Street because of the fact that we are bound by Proposition 2.5, right? So going more than 2.5 always engenders some risk to some other aspect of our budget, except for the fact that like new growth and local receipts sometimes, typically do, actually bail us out and give us the headspace that we need, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I don't think we're putting ourselves at risk of being able to balance the budget if we use the 2.5 as the starting point, knowing that we may have to cut it at some point, but at least then we're just tagging it to COLA, which is the conversation that we've had over the years. You know, that to as much as possible tag it to that Social Security COLA.
Well,
I mean, I know I've advocated for higher because of the fact that there have been years when we haven't met that, because of course, as soon as we said we were going to tag it to the Social Security COLA, Social Security was like 8.9% that year, and we didn't meet that prior year, you know, kind of alignment. But I mean, that's where I think we should start, and it happens this year that it also aligns with the Prop 2.5.
so the only thing, I guess I'm willing to rescind my motion based on, I think we are too premature to even throw a number out there. Let's get some more information. Ron's he's just now going to start meeting with each board or department head, and let's Ron will be cognizant of 2 and 2.5 and see where we're going, and I think it's kind of premature for us to even, based on, I did not know, last week when we met and we knew the school budget was 3.4, I didn't realize it came down to 2.8. That's a significant amount on that budget. So I think we're too premature. Let's kick this can down the road a little more and see where we come. And if it makes sense to go to 2.5, I'm willing to move if need be.
Just to add another storm cloud to the budgeting front, discussion I had earlier this week with the treasurer, Sharon, she had indicated what she's hearing from the retirement board is the significant increase that we saw this year. We can fully expect that over the next couple of years as well. I mean, may not be to the same extent, but there's going to be a significant increase that's going to make us say, ow.
Okay.
Well, and that's the whole reason, I mean, not for nothing, that is the whole reason, and I think that's one of the conversations we need to start having. The whole point, as much as I despise the OPEB regulation, right, and the fact that it drives municipalities to fund at a level that would be considered unreasonable and unsustainable in the private sector, okay? The whole point of that is that our current practice of funding the retirement out of our year-to-year operational budgets, knowing that there's this type of volatility depending on the size of your retiree population, right? The whole intent to drive people to have functionally a pension rainy day fund is to cover that, right? So I think one of the things I would ask Ron is to do some research is that even though we've been putting money away for OPEB, is what are the allowable triggers for us to say, like say we have a particular spike this year, right? Do we have the option, since we put away a couple $100,000, right, or whatever we put away, okay? Do we have the option to at least smooth our spike by funding half the difference this year out of the OPEB money that we've put away, yet when we go look at our free cash, go ahead and put more out than we're putting in? Because fundamentally speaking, what that would allow us to do is, yes, technically the way we have managed paying our Worcester County retirement is out of operational funds, which would typically be something we don't pay directly with free cash, right? Bad practice. But if we've put money away in functionally a stabilization fund, the point of a stabilization fund is to make sure that you don't have spikes in your tax rate based on the demands that come up, right? This is going to be a recurring need, but so long as we finance it in a way that perhaps we pay half of that difference out of our already put away OPEB, but we put away 2 or 3 times that again this year out of our free cash, right? It may seem like a shell game, but what that does for us is that we still continue to build that insulation. We still continue to comply because our net gain in the OPEB account is greater, so we are functionally showing an effort to comply with establishing the right level of OPEB, okay? But it also mitigates that 1-year impact and starts to take some of the pressure off of this annualized budget in a way that's responsible, right? So let's find out if that's even a, I don't know all the accounting rules, right? I don't know if that's 100% legal, but I think it's worth a discussion to find out if that's a legitimate approach.
Yeah, and I'll even take it a step further. Let's assume that, we've hit some certain threshold or trigger where it is allowable for us to pull from OPEB to kind of soften the blow.
Right.
What I'll also do is I'll reach out to an auditor to see if that would have any potential impact
On the quality of our audit. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do
because
that.
obviously that's something I want to build the town towards, to be able to get a rating.
Yep.
In discussions with Sharon and Lori, they still think we might be a year or so away before we're ready to do that.
Okay.
But I also don't want to penalize ourselves today.
Absolutely.
Right.
With the,
Right.
and losing all.
So let's just see. I mean, because we've been trying to do the right thing. We're I don't know how far along we are relative to other communities, but at least we've got something. I think some haven't even started, right? Even though we're years past when we were supposed to already be compliant. So let's try to be smart with what we've already put away. Okay. So, and make it work the way it's supposed to work, right, to a certain extent.
All right.
So are we going to table the
table.
call
I
then?
agree, I agree with tabling it for now.
Open, close, annual town meeting warrant dates.
All right, another one I'll give you a little background on is part of the timeline that I've discussed with the advisory committee. As we build up towards annual town meeting, obviously opening and closing the annual warrant is something that needs to be done. My suggestion and recommendation to the board is to open the warrant as of Monday, February 24th, and to close it on, originally it was going to be April 18th, but I noticed that's also Good Friday, so I would suggest moving it to April 17th. And that way, I mean, we're still giving the better part of a couple months for warrant articles to be presented. And by closing it on April 17th, that still gives us plenty of time to go to town council and make sure we got all the proper verbiage and form for any of the warrant articles. So I think it's kind of in that sweet spot so that it makes it so it is available for people to submit warrant articles, be able to chance to publicize it, but then also on the back end from the staff perspective, we have the ability to make sure it's done correctly.
I'm fine with it.
Yep. So,
So do we need an actual motion on this?
Yeah, I'd prefer.
okay, so you said, but open it tomorrow?
Open for February 24th, which would be Monday.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we open the town meeting warrant on the February 24th and communicate an intended annual town meeting closure date of April 17th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Didn't we open it, close it a bunch last year?
We did.
Resignation, tree warden, Dennis Tucker. Are we accepting with resignation?
Make a motion to accept the resignation with regrets.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And approve select board minutes?
I have not had an opportunity to read them. I would like to table them, and I apologize to Karen. If she can get them done this quick, I ought to be able to read them ahead of time, but so I apologize.
Packet too, though.
Yeah, I do see them, yeah. But if you guys are willing to table it, if not, you guys can go ahead.
We can table it.
We can table it too.
Thank you. That it?
That is it.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Thanks. Hold on for a minute. I'm ahead of you.
I probably won't get them over here tomorrow, but magically when two dog kennels appear in the lobby, you know what to do
I'll
with them.
give Paul the heads up so he
Yeah,
doesn't
would you
freak.
give Paul a heads up that spontaneously over the weekend, a couple of Barrett kennels is
You
gonna
won't
show up in
believe
the
this.
lobby?
They just appeared.
I don't know.